Oh, hey, Doc. Hey, what should I pour my calves with at weaning time?
Well, Generic Ron, if I may be so bold, I'm going to say something that seems completely heterodox to many cattlemen. It is not essential that if an animal's in the chute, we pour it with something. If I'm going to use a pour-on, I'm going to use it for what it's supposed to do, to control an internal or an external parasite. If I can't get good control with that product because of the product itself or the timing, then there's no reason to pour that animal. So let's break this down into the different things that pour-ons can do. We can use pour-ons for deworming, and we can use pour-ons to control external parasites like lice or flies. When we talk about deworming, we've had a lot more resistance to dewormers, and it continues to develop. Because of this, I won't use a pour-on for deworming anymore. I'll only use an injectable product or an oral product to deworm cattle. If I'm going to deworm, I want it to work. And since pour-ons are the least effective means of administering a dewormer, I don't bother using them anymore. So if you want to deworm cattle, either put it in the neck or put it in the mouth. Don't bother with a pour-on. Now, in regards to external parasites, it depends on what I'm trying to attack and what time of year it is. If we're talking flies, I'll like to use an oil-based pour-on in this case. Oil seems to stick to the animal better than a water-based pour-on, so it's going to last a little longer. Now, when it comes to lice, there's really only one product anymore that I trust to get good control on lice, and that's cleanup. But when giving cleanup, I'll only give it at a time of year where it's going to make a difference in the lice and in a manner that's going to actually work for it. So what do I mean by time of year? Well, when you think about when we have lice problems in cattle in the upper Midwest, really, we're talking that into January to the first part of March is when those lice really get bad. Now, cleanup, I feel like it will work for controlling lice within 3 to 5 weeks of application. Any longer than that, well, the product's not going to be effective anymore. So if the cattle are in the chute and I want to control lice, but we're not within 3 to 5 weeks of that time period, I'm not going to give them cleanup at that time because I don't feel confident that it's going to be there when it's needed to keep the lice off the animal. Now, if it is during that time frame, then what I'm going to do when I pour it on the animal is I want to pour it all the way from the poll to the tail head. I don't want to miss a spot. The reason for this is cleanup is not one of these products that's absorbed into the animal and distributed all over. Rather, it just oozes over the side of the animal in order to control lice. So if I miss a spot by my pouring mechanism, then that spot might not get as good a lice control. Really, it doesn't work if I only get it on one side of the animal. I need to get it on the top of the back, so it'll go all the way over to both sides of the animal. It's really funny to see if somebody's not pouring cattle right when they all have lice, but they're all on the opposite side of where the guy was standing when he was trying to pour them all. So with all of the continual changes that we're seeing with parasite resistance, it's really helpful to reach out to your veterinarians at Sioux Nation Ag Center. We work hard to stay abreast of the different changes that are occurring so that we know what seems to be working for our area. By working with us, we can help you select the products that are going to work the best to control parasites in your cattle and the time frames that are going to work the best to make sure that those products are effective. Because parasites, be they internal or external, are very much not going to help us feed that bottom line. Now, just as a side note for folks out there, there's more than one way to give an oral dewormer to an animal. Now, drenching them is obviously the way we know they get the highest effective dose. Right there, we see it and it's done. But if they're in a situation where you want to get them dewormed, but you're not necessarily going to be able to get them run through, I would look at feeding them an oral dewormer. That is actually a pretty good plan as long as those cattle are already in the yard, so you don't have to worry about them picking up new worms, or we're past that first hard frost, or lastly, we're into that point of the summer when it's super hot and they're just not gonna see those worms reactivate for quite a while. So that's also something to keep in mind if we're talking about deworming to get the most bang for your buck.